What is going on, Hive? How is everybody doing today? It is Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. Got the audio coming in loud and clear. Tinfoil hat, vape, and nerd candy ready. That is exactly right, Chantelli Lace. Excuse me. Man, I got a good one lined up for you all tonight. I got SammyTMafia backstage. We have a ton of Hive Mind finds, a ton of wild stuff happening in this case, which I guess is no surprise. It's been going on at this pace for the last couple of years and some change. And I have a couple of announcements to make that I cannot forget to do after I say what is going on to the Hive. So I see Open Mind Perspectives is tuning in. We share some of her content from time to time, which is always super interesting takes, and she dives deep into this case. We have Beck 1111. What's Gucci, my Louie? Kristen, good to see you. We got Dawn in the chat. Touch of Gray, great to see you as well. Gabby girl, how are you doing? Festive, shout out to the first mod that I ever had on YouTube. We got Mercedes, Rachel. I'll do it when pigs fly. What's going on? What's up, Carrie? ATL Drew, you need to change your username. Change the YouTube handle. What's going on, Bobby? TJ, how are you doing? TJ Joe. We got Amy from Northern Kentucky. K-Dub, what's going on? Hi, Donna. What's up, Brittany and Rayanne and Kaylee and SJR Chris? Good to see you. Christy, Nevada. Good morning, Aussie. I'm assuming you're tuning in from the Hive Down Under. April, hello from Wisconsin. Shout out to my home state. Emily, how are you doing? Ashley, Mary, Bobby, what up? Bobby Buckets. That's a cool name. Michelle, I don't know if Mrs. Birdie is tuning in right now. I actually think she's on a client call for her day of wedding coordinating planning right now, but I know she watches the replays. Where is everybody in the Hive tuning in from tonight? Texas, Virginia. This is my favorite part of starting a stream, is seeing where everyone's tuning in from. The Hive Down Under. The algorithm is bringing in the Australians, and I am a big fan of it. West Virginia, Illinois, Georgia. Bills Mafia from Sammy T backstage. That's concerning. I'll do it when pigs fly. I don't have a basement here, but if I did, I'd be a little concerned. Jersey, Lexington, and now All Pigs Fly is in my bathroom, so she is teleporting, or they are teleporting. Cincinnati, Ohio, another cheesehead in the chat. We got Las Vegas, another Wisconsin. That's awesome. Canada, Tacoma, Cali, Michigan, 509 Family Living Room. What is going on? We got Austin, Texas, Poconos, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Oklahoma. Festive, don't creep me out like that. Florida and Mississippi. No, none of our Scotland friends in here tonight. It doesn't seem like it, but hopefully they will be tuning in. So, all right, Hive. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring SammyTMafia up on stage. And here she is. Hang on, Sammy. How are you doing?
Hi.
We got you loud and clear.
Good. I'm glad. Hi, guys.
We had to move up our usually scheduled streams together from Thursday to Tuesday. I don't think anybody's complaining about it. I always enjoy having you on. And I know you and I were texting earlier. We got some stuff to talk about. And while I am kind of talking about the schedule changes, I have some slides that will show the upcoming schedule. But tomorrow morning, I'm actually going to stream at 8 a.m.
Ooh, that's early.
Yeah, coffee with Birdie is what Mrs. Birdie says I should call it. But the reason being is I'm going out of town tomorrow and Thursday for work. So I'm going to stream tomorrow at 8 a.m. And then I have pre-recorded a live. I'm going to try to do that live premiere thing. Sammy, you were telling me about
Yeah. I used to do that with my old podcast. We never live, so we would always pre-record it and then debut it live on Sunday at 8.
Yeah, I hated it. You know how weird I felt talking to myself, even though I'm kind of doing the same thing right now. Nothing's different.
No,
other than
I wouldn't recommend doing that again, because first of all, it took so much time, and then you have to devote a day to listening to yourself to chat. It was just
yeah. Well,
but I loved my old show. You guys could check it out. It's called Quite Frankly, a podcast about Howard Stern. I did it for a lot of years. I co-created it. And speaking of which,
yep, I was just going to say that because I brought it up last night. I brought it up last night a little bit. I was like, does anybody know the name Billy West? And I will let you take it from here and explain it because you obviously were the one who got that connection.
So I did a show for a lot of years called Quite Frankly, a podcast about Howard Stern, because I was a huge radio fan. Opie and Anthony, Howard Stern. I mean, every morning since I was a kid, because my dad listened to it. And then I became obsessed with it. And I had like the first Sirius XM hookup and everything. Well, Billy West left in the 90s, but he made quite the impression on me. He also did the voice of Ren and Stimpy, and he was the voice of all the Looney Tunes in the Space Jam movie. Yeah, he did like all the voices, everything you could think of. And so he randomly tweeted me and said he was listening to old shows I had on my old podcast and loved it, and tweeted at me and asked what I was doing. And so I said I was doing this. And so I sent him a link, and he's like, I'd love to promote it. And then we just talked for like 2 hours today. And I love Billy West, and he's interested in talking to us. And I think he has like such a unique perspective because he's one of those Hollywood writers, voice working actors, co-creators of Futurama, stuff like that. And he kind of has like an inside track without being on the inside, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like he kept his soul.
That's, you know what? I was going to say that was good. At least from his Twitter bio, it kind of sounded like it because, and I was reading through some of his tweets. He doesn't seem like one of those Hollywood people that's completely, given their soul to the devil and God knows what they've done for their fortune and fame. But he's clearly a very, very talented man and
so talented.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, and so we will have more to come on that, Hive. But yeah, Sammy, that's awesome. And I have 3 followers on X, and I was like, hey, Billy, I have no presence here over on X, but he still actually tweeted back to me. And
he's just cool. He like sees light in people. Like when we were talking today, he's like, because we were redoing episodes where Howard was treating him like crap. Like what happened was one of the creators in Ren and Stimpy, John Krasinski, or not John Krasinski. I can't even say his last name. It's so long, but we'll call him John K. He created Ren and Stimpy with Billy, and then he became a pain in the ass for Nickelodeon. So Nickelodeon said, cut out John because he was being such a pain in the ass. And Billy could do both the voice of Ren and Stimpy. So he stayed on. And then Howard shanghaied him, Howard Stern, and had John on the show without telling Billy. And so the both of them are sitting in studio. And the look on Billy's face, the whole thing, the way it played out, and I was so angry for him. So angry for him. And he's like, you were like, it was like you were in that room. Like you just took up that mantle. And I was like, Billy, I was so mad for you.
You know what? And I'm not just saying this. If if I ever had some internet beef or real beef, I would want you in my corner 10 out of 10 times, and I would let you loose. And it'd be no holds bar. I would feel very confident having you on my team for any type, like I said, for any type of disagreement like that, where it would have to be verbal. But no, that's awesome. And we will have more to come. Sammy and I have been talking off stream. We're working on a lot of cool stuff and trying to get some stuff figured out and sorted out here over the next few months. So stay tuned for that. Moving on really quick, I launched 2 new t-shirts just because we were talking about it. So now we don't only just have hoodies in addition to the phone case, the tinfoil hat, the mugs, the bumper sticker. I launched 2 hoodies. This one is the bird giving the finger. I tried to get text underneath it, but I wasn't able to make it look normal by having it that small. But I wanted to have it say, NPCs hate this shirt. And then over here, I have just a classic tee, Hive Mind, unplugged to see the truth. So these are.
Can you do a V-neck for me? I love V-necks, and I love that color pink because I feel like stores are so afraid of it. Like they always go light pink or some sort. I love the Pepto-Bismol pink. Like that's it's like a 90s pink, which I appreciate.
You remember when we were talking about how Subway pumps in fake smells to make you feel some type of way, and then we talked about Abercrombie? I had a Pepto-Bismol pink shirt in 6th grade that said like real men wear pink, and I think it was my favorite shirt at the time. So
I remember that shirt.
Yeah. So in addition to like all the Affliction shirts that had all the chrome all over it, because I was probably watching Jersey Shore and God knows what. But
can I ask the listeners how many chair sets did people ruin with those jeans? Because I ruined quite a few sitting at people's houses with those
the bedazzled ones.
Oh, the robust pockets of Rockin' Republic and True Religion and Metro Park jeans, Miss Me jeans. They were just they were a time, man. They love to ruin chairs.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, so these are available now. And the next exciting announcement that I have the first ever Hive Mind Roundtable guests picked out. Their names are on the next slide. I think that this is going to be a pretty awesome crew. So they have no idea yet. So I'm going to send, I was going to send the email prior to the stream. I decided I'm going to wait, do it live. I've already seen one of the names in here. So I will go ahead and show you here on the first ever Hive Mind Roundtable this Sunday at 7 p.m. We have Big Forehead, Big Dreams, which is an incredible YouTube handle name. Love that.
Big Forehead, Big Dreams.
We have Mama Tata, who's going to be on this roundtable. And then we have that Southern Blonde Lawyer. So to everybody that reached out, thank you. I didn't necessarily pick at full randomness. I looked at the people who actually like explained what their topic was, what they wanted to discuss, and then also listed out their YouTube username. A lot of people just said, hey, I want to be in there. There was no subject. I didn't know what your username was. So the next time that we do this, which I'd like to do this once a month. I think that'd be fun.
Can I ask a question? Where is that Southern Blonde Lawyer from?
Was she from Kentucky?
I would die. Can you ask her a question when you do this roundtable for me? Because I find when I watch trials, like trials that take place in the South versus back East, there is a decorum that I appreciate in the South when I see lawyers interacting with each other, whether it be how they address each other or emotions, or the judge interacting with the prosecution or defense, either or, that I appreciate. And back East, it's just like total disrespect and it's dog eat dog. I mean, anybody watching the Karen Reed trial, they know what I'm talking about. And I feel like a Southern jury would totally hate like a prosecutor, the way they come off in like these sorts of trials. So I'm wondering where she's from and what she thinks of that kind of culture, like how it's so different?
That's a super good question, actually. There was one other person that I emailed that I didn't hear back from just because I was curious if they'd want to be. They worked in a public defender's office for 24 years, have been a part of a bunch of investigations and just kind of seen behind the scenes. So I have that email starred for the next one because I think that would be super
That's
interesting.
going to be fascinating.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So, all right, Sammy, should we start to get into it here?
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about our boy William from last night. He is Brian Koberger's friend that absolutely ate the faces off of a handful of creators, calling them short and fat and whatever else he did. He did not hold back. We played it on the stream. Mama Tata, surprisingly enough, even before she was picked, I picked those names for the roundtable probably about 4 or 5 hours ago. I got them all locked in. But Mama Tata was able to get me his email and his phone number. So long story short, sent him an email last night after the stream, didn't hear back. I was on my way to the gym early this morning and I said, I'm just going to copy and paste this email into a text. And I got a response right away. I'm not going to show the text out of respect for him asking me to not necessarily talk about it. But I can tell you that he did not take his own videos down and 30-day suspension. So
wait, what?
Yeah. I'm not going to go into more detail as far as what he feels or what he says. I told him I wouldn't say anything about that, but yeah, he didn't take down. I said he had asked me to not say anything about certain things, so I won't, but
that's a shock. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I have been waiting, and I think we got a couple of glimpses in the beginning from this from people who ran with Brian. I remember somebody when this all popped off and he was the person. Remember, he said we used to run and it just seemed out of character and couldn't believe it, sort of thing. But when this kid spoke up and clearly knows him well, that he wouldn't hurt a fly, that is just, it makes zero sense. I have been waiting so long for somebody in his life to say this because he doesn't give off narcissistic stalker killer vibes.
No. And, you know, I actually think that I said after we got done watching, because we watched 2 of his videos. After one of them, I said, you know, A, I hope I'm never in a position that Brian's in. But B, I would hope that I would hope that one of my friends would do that for me. Even if it took 2 years, I would just hope that one freaking person came out and told people who I am as a guy and what's my character, what's my moral, whatever it may be. And I mean,
how scared must people be though? Like, this is what I'm talking about, is the fact it took this long and then this person gets blocked for saying that, to me, just says it all.
Yeah. I'm
shocked.
I am too, because I would bet that if that didn't happen, he would be on this stream right now. So tonight. But
how many people do you think are like that though? I believe there's probably a lot more, and they just are looking at the examples of what happens to people when you go up against the machine, what you're up against. And this is it. I mean, you're going to be ostracized. You're going to be wiped off the map socially on social media. You're going to be treated as non-tent. Essentially, ignore it, make it go away, brush it under the carpet, block that person to denounce their credibility, right? Because if you're off socials, that means you must have done something wrong, right? Because that's all so that gives credence to people saying this person's a kook or this person's some sort of negative adjective, of course. And now we can just never talk about it because he doesn't exist. He doesn't exist online, so he doesn't exist at all. So let's not deal with that.
Well, the really tough part for me to try and wrap my head around is from somebody who has had trolls and shit talk me, and I've seen the videos. It's not like it's a crazy amount, and it's not like super, super vulgar, but it like happens, right? Like,
right.
you know, or the fake profiles. Somebody was in my chat last night trying to do a birdie crypto coin. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, how does none of that get easily stopped? But then you have a guy who's a combat veteran Marine who speaks his mind and calls out the actions of what people did, both good and bad. He had a list of creators. I think Bubbly, who's in this chat very often, she was on that list of people that did good work. And then there's he called it the drunk parrot show.
I know. I think it wasn't even that bad, which makes it more terrifying. And it just reminds me a lot of the Karen Reed stuff too. Like followers of the Free Karen Reed movement were getting knocks on their door about stuff. I mean, putting rubber duckies on things like, what does this mean? Are you threatening? Are you intimidating No, you're guilty of corruption and we're pointing it out and you don't like it. And that's what this is too.
Right. And so to generalize just kind of the conversation after I'd heard that it wasn't him that took the video down, right? I think maybe a couple other people knew that he got the suspension. To me, from somebody, and as you know, Sammy, and a lot of the people that I have on regularly, Phoenix Talks, Devil's Advocates, TikTok is the worst for getting stuff taken down. YouTube is fairly lax. I mean, they have a lot of, but it goes to the point where I go, to me, something tells me like we're authorities alerted. We're the powers at be alerted, because when it gets pulled that quick, somebody who's not on a giant platform, somebody who doesn't have a ton of views, and that other people were reposting it, the fact they went right to the source and they got it down right away is crazy.
Well, so YouTube will let things slide through the cracks unless it gets attention of something that they're aware of.
Yes, I agree. And I don't know. So I was actually shocked to see that.
Me too. That's a shocking news.
And hopefully when things calm down, I told him that the offer stands. And if he ever wants to come on and speak his mind with people who are willing to listen and not bait him into some drama BS, that he's always going to be more than welcome to come on here and just have no filter. He can say whatever the hell he wants,
Well, you have to think to yourself that this person didn't exist just in a bubble this entire time. So my guess is he knows people who knows Brian. He knows about this case. You don't think in his circle of people he's been saying this from the get? You know what I mean? Like, just because he's not saying it on TikTok or not saying it on YouTube doesn't mean this chatter doesn't exist. Just like we just don't not exist because we're here or not. So my thought is, how many people think this way, know this, and it's taken this long for somebody to just get up and say it, and this is what happens? You're deplatformed?
So I don't know about you, but to kind of put a cap on the reason why, maybe, because I think he could probably answer a lot of the unanswered questions when it comes to what type of person is Brian, because not only has the news told us what he is, right, but he hasn't told us either. He stayed quiet. So there's literally only one person that came out there and wasn't afraid to say it, of who he is, what he was doing. I mean, I would be so curious to hear, again, what the possible connections could be, what his thoughts are. So again, you never know, but maybe he'll change his mind and he'll come on. So
Yeah.
This next hive mind find, Sammy, this one is crazy.
I read this.
Holy hell.
I read this on my old channel. And I know exactly what this is. And it is crazy. And I read this whole thing on my old channel that got nuked because just like that kid, you can't say too much. And when you do, you get a little too close to the stove, they take you off.
Yeah. So I'm gonna read this. Okay. I'll give a little bit of a disclaimer. It's hazing in a frat. Okay. And it's pretty like, I guess if you're listening around kids, if you got this on speaker, I don't know if there's swear words, but anyways, just a little precursor. Anyways, my trauma and experience from Sigma Chi fraternity as a former pledge. Now, this is not at Idaho, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
But this is Sigma Chi. And it says, I saw that there was someone else here posting about their traumatic experience in Phi Delta Theta. And I think it's important I come out against Sigma Chi and how I suffered at the hands of their fraternity and fraternity members as a pledge 7 years ago. Trigger warning, talks about abuse, depression, anxiety, assault. I think there are a lot of, I think there are a lot of negative stereotypes in fraternities and sororities. And I want to note, just like the other guy did, that a lot of times they are false. And I know many who have had positive experiences at fraternities. But at Sigma Chi, I had an extremely terrible experience where members psychologically and mentally abused me for months on ends. First, I started off as a pledge. They made me do tons of boring miscellaneous tasks all day, like clean their rooms, the bathrooms, clean the kitchen, nothing terrible. If you didn't clean fast enough, they would yell and scream at you, call you homophobic and racial slurs. A lot of times the members said the N-word and make you plank, squat, or do some form of exercise. A lot of times they would make us steal stuff too. They forced me to steal furniture from people's balconies for the house, food from the food bank bins, and a lot of times just snacks they wanted from shoppers, both locations. If you refused to do it, they would threaten to beat you up, or in my case, I was placed in a dark room for 8 hours with white noise playing in the background. This was all to gain their validation before initiation happened. But one of the worst things they made one of the pledges do was siphon gasoline out of people's cars. Once they stole gasoline from a minivan, and I later found out that it was a mother with kids' car. She couldn't start it and take them to school. One of the actives was mad that she was trying to investigate it and slashed her tires the next day. They were laughing about this at our pledge meetings. I was demoralized and ashamed, but stayed with the pledge process because luckily I avoided some of the worst stuff, although I am not proud of the things I did. I liked a lot of the guys in SIG, honestly, but they developed this weird gang mentality when they were together. Some of the nicest guys I knew would be saying the N-word and saying terrible things about people of African descent. I'm half Filipino, half Lebanese, and they would call me a monkey, sand monkey, and sand N-word, and a mud blood all the time. They gave us all nicknames, and guys who I thought were my friends would call me racial slurs and psychologically abuse me. Okay. The worst was initiation, which was extremely traumatic, and I don't want to go into too much detail about it. They blindfolded us and made us stand naked against the wall. They would pour cold liquids over our heads and laugh and say demoralizing and racist things. Then
so they essentially are waterboarding their quote unquote friends so they can be friends and loyal to the people that are waterboarding them. I mean, like, this is psychological torture.
It is.
It's insane.
They waterboard terrorists, everybody, and they hide it from the public. That's how crazy it is. And frats, how many accidental drownings or quote unquote accidental drownings where when they do the autopsy, there's no water in the lungs, but they're dead.
Well, my stepson's best friend died. He came home in a body bag from a fraternity pledge. He pledged the University of, I think it was Virginia. His name's Nolan Birch. There's a whole documentary. His parents go around and show it to kids in college and high school. They made him drink a liter of some sort of alcohol. And when he started turning purple, they thought it would be fun to dance around and kick his body and didn't call for medical help, and he was declared brain dead and died. So
That's terrible.
I'm saying, like, that's the level of all these capable young kids are around, and his body is turning purple, and you guys think it's a selfie time.
Well, it kind of goes back to, not to tie everything back to kids that age in this Idaho 4 case, but it's like, do you think that those parents, family members felt like those were just kids, just drunk college kids that didn't know what to do? Maybe they were frozen in fear. No, they were on their phones. They were completely capable. They could have gotten help. And what did they choose to do? Nothing.
That's the, and I brought this up too, because when you watch the documentary about Nolan, the kids in the interrogation room are part of the documentary. So like the interview, you know, when you're with police, and nobody would crack at first, right? Before they got the security footage, before they got the camera footage, nobody was cracking. So you have parents who drive all the way or fly all the way from Buffalo, New York to go pick up the body of their son that you essentially just murdered, and nobody's talking. Finally, somebody cracked, but when I say it's repulsive, the way the wall of silence went, like the mentality that must take, like the psychology of how you just watch somebody die and you're not going to say anything.
Thank you. It's crazy. And like, you could, there is an aspect of college age males and like peacocking, right? Who's got the biggest puffed out chest?
Yeah.
You know, it's harmless shit talk till someone takes it way too far, right? Or you know, it's so to continue on and to your original point about how they're describing waterboarding, because then they would tie our hands to a chair and ask us trivial historical questions about the fraternity. Every time I got one wrong, they would waterboard me and scream at me until I got them right. Then they took us into rooms alone and made us watch homosexual pornography with the sound full blast. One of the pledges, let's just say, got aroused during it, so they physically assaulted him really bad with a wooden oar. They spanked him with it, and he couldn't walk. He was on the ground crying and in severe pain, and they just left him there. Then they took us all into the main room, usually where parties happen and where people dance, and they made us lie on the floor completely naked. They forced us to crawl and eat old molding pieces of meat off the ground with our hands behind our backs. They called it the pig festival. The person who ate the most was then exempt from the punishment. Do you know what the punishment was? They covered a vibrator with raw egg and made us put it in our mouths. Not all of us had to do it, but a couple guys did. And when the actives got a good laugh, we moved on to just hours of intense physical activities. The last and most messed up part of initiation is the end. The ceremony that takes place is in the chapter room and is very ritualistic. They are in these weird cloaks holding staffs, and we go through this whole pseudo-Christian ritual that is for some reason dedicated to Greek gods and Freemasonry / Masonic Brotherhood, if that even makes sense. Then to celebrate, they had strippers and escorts come. A lot of guys just took these women to their rooms and did private stuff, but in general, it was just a weird strip show with a lot of alcohol. Again, I don't want to ruin anyone's experience in any fraternity because I'm sure it can be positive, but this was too much for me. I'm happy to let you guys know what happened because it shouldn't be a secret.
Well, the ritualistic stuff with Sigma Chi is true. I went in on my old channel, a whole thing, how they do this whole ritual to the Emperor Constantine, who was the emperor who destroyed the library in Alexandria.
Okay.
And like they give all these offerings to Constantine, and then somebody in the ritual essentially is Constantine, and they give these words, and then the kids have to like repeat it back to them. It's so weird. Like if you look at because guess who released this information? WikiLeaks. It was Julian Assange who released all the fraternity secrets of initiation rituals. And there's like a huge manual on Sigma Chi and the certain rituals you have to do to become a member and what they signify and who they, exalt, I guess. And
so think about that, Hive. Julian effing Assange is talking about a Sigma Chi playbook that has ritualistic aspects.
Yeah.
It's in WikiLeaks, for God's sakes. So
it's in WikiLeaks.
And it's like, so to me, right where my brain goes, and I'm sure yours does too, Sammy, is why did it take Julian Assange to release that? How deep does that go? How high up does it go? We know obviously about a lot of the presidents and certain frats that were in and the skull and crossbones and all that shit. We can go deep on that. But in general, Sigma Chi that goes across the country in a Greek life network.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus.
I mean, well, you have to think of when you listen to the survivors of things like MK Ultra, right? There is this huge study and obvious thing where it's trauma ritual abuse. So controllers have learned through sexual abuse, through humiliation, through consistent ritual abuse. Assange has never ever been debunked. True. I think that they take a lot of those cues from that knowledge. And so you have this faction of elite people in colleges who then you're kind of like almost training to accept this sort of thing. And how rare is it that you get people who are willing to speak out like this? I mean, even listening to this, if somebody told me I had to stick a egg-filled raw egg dildo in my mouth, I would.
Said it was a vibrator.
I would trip you so hard and stab you with that in the eye. There's not a chance. If you told me, is this a Rocky movie? Am I going to be beating up Apollo Creed at the end of this? Because if I'm not talking to Carl Weathers at the end of this dildo fest, I don't want to fucking hear from you. You know, if I'm not getting da 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 da, I don't care.
I was gonna say too, like, I think like this is not obviously this is very like traumatic, but I feel like the vibrator you could probably lose a tooth, but the fact you said you would stab them in the eye with a dildo that's egg covered, I'm surprised that doesn't happen more often. And
well, that's the psychological programming. Like, did you see how they got in that entire like anecdote? It was they got us to siphon gas out of cars. We had to do planks. We had to do squats. We had to do this sort. So they're like gearing them up towards you're going to accept a raw egg dildo in your mouth as punishment because we have broke you down psychologically to this point where we know we could stick you in a room with white noise, blindfolded listening to gay porn, and you're not going anywhere. That's fucked.
That is so effed. That's so effed. And it's like, you know, there is a certain level of like obviously maturity that comes with age, but there's also what do they call it? Like when you realize that you're not invincible, I think everybody remembers that point in their life where it's like when you're growing up and you're like, nothing's going to stop me. Nothing can hurt me. I can do whatever I want. You kind of have that invincible feeling. And then you get older, or maybe for some it's after college, probably for most it's after college. But like, you know, I do wonder if any of those kids ever look back and just be like, what the hell was I doing? Or just, yeah.
Well, I think everybody has that and they have a degree of tolerance of it. So like when reality slams you in the face so hard, everybody has a tolerance to what they're not willing to accept. I mean, you look back at any points in your life and there's things you've done where you're just like, what the fuck was I doing? Right. Mm-hmm. But it's not this level of depravity.
Right. And look at what Misinformation just said. It's a humiliation ritual, really at the basis of it.
Truly.
So now you start to wonder, is that why do these humiliation rituals, do they run that deep into the Greek life university system across the country that you've all seen the big time Hollywood people do that shit?
I mean, they all talk about the secret societies are these fraternities, sororities are extensions of that. You know, they talk about the Boulets, which was mentioned in the Diddy trial and Kobe. They have talked about the Freemasons. These are all extensions of protecting a larger, more elite thing and pledging your loyalty to this thing. I don't think they get up front what this exactly means, but if these members and the alumni of these members are a part of it and you're conditioned to protect it, you're going to, because you have literally eaten raw meat off the floor like a dog. You don't think that's psychologically conditioning you to protect people? That's what it is.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Does this, I don't know the answer to this because I didn't go to a college where like Greek life was big at all, or like I never rushed. But
Well,
does
I,
this happen in sororities too? Is it more of a frat thing where it's harsh and more intense? Do you know?
Well, I remember you were probably too young, but there was this show on MTV called Sorority Life. Does anybody in the chat remember this? It ran for like maybe 2 seasons.
Why did they get
Um,
cut off because they waterboarded people on TV or what?
no, it was actually really benign. It wasn't, yeah, somebody said yes. They actually did it at UB, which was in Buffalo, which is kind of strange. But I think I was at college. I was in college at the time when this was being filmed because I kind of remember hearing about it. I went to Buff State, but I it was different. It wasn't the same as what this is like, but I think it depends on what kind of elite sorority or fraternity you're pledging, you know? So
Yeah.
these names carry different connotations, and there are more elite ones than other ones.
Is Sigma Chi pretty high up there?
Yes.
I would assume, right? So,
Yes, it is.
well, yeah, that is absolutely disgusting, but it gives a firsthand take as to what happens here.
They actually like sororities. I remember they're they're pretty strict. Like if you have to like live in the house, like your first year or something like that. I remember people who I went to college with did, and you have to do a lot of volunteer work and all that. And if you knew me back then, why would I do that? Like I don't want to. I don't need to do a bunch of shit to have a bunch of friends and look cute. And I was happy rolling my face off and just bopping around Elmwood and Allen Street and Chippewa. Like I didn't. I don't want to do that. I want the fun part.
Yeah, I yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I played football in college and there was some stuff, but nothing like that. Like I think I told you, like we did like instead of a case race, we had to do a rum race as freshmen, which is 3 people to a handle of Ron Diaz
Oh
or
Jesus.
Admiral Nelson. So it comes out to like 2 full
Oh,
solo cups of Ron each. It's
I still
disgusting.
to this day can't drink SoCo Lime because that was like so popular when I was young. Like you would get a bottle of SoCo to pregame, but then at the bars, they would literally have a dispensary of SoCo Lime shots. If I even smell SoCo, it's like that gag reef. I cannot. I cannot.
Yeah, mine is Bacardi Limon and orange juice.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Just like Bacardi in general, I can't even do that either. It's the same thing.
Yeah. So, all right. Speaking of
Kelly.
what
Yeah, I
Kelly,
just Kelly said I just did a ton of drugs in college like a normal person. That's right. And I graduated with really high average. Like what?
yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. So,
Grey Goose
speaking
and Sunny D. I
the
love our listeners. This is hilarious.
well, everyone's just reminiscing now. They're probably envisioning the smell,
Sunny
and everyone's just like,
Delight. Oh, and we probably thought we were being healthy because it's orange juice. It's like literal sugar and God knows what.
oh, we would do. I don't. it's like you would get like a giant Rubbermaid, pour a bunch of shit in it with pixie sticks and
Oh my
juice
God.
and all that.
I remember like when you were poor and like you're just like pooling your money together for beer and it'd be like Natty Ice.
Yeah. God damn.
So
I look
bad.
back to that. I'm just like I said, now I go up north for a night and I sit around a bonfire till midnight and I'm hungover till Wednesday. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I
Like,
can't. I can't. I can't. I can't. I just had this my best friend's in town from Arizona and I had her over for Father's Day with her kids and we walked to get ice cream. We were playing in the park and I'm like thinking of our lives now. I'm like, if we just spent the whole day drinking, we'd be dead for like 2 days. I feel my organs now. Like I feel them. I'm like, why do I feel my liver somehow? What is this?
oh man. And just
Funneling
like,
the booze.
beer
Yes,
bongs.
funneling was the thing. I used to do like for my graduation present for my friends. I made custom made funnels and put stickers and like their names on them. Like that was my present to my friends was a fucking funnel. And I was a champ at funneling beers, a goddamn champion. If I funneled a beer now, I would die. I would die. I couldn't even imagine.
Are you talking like the beer bong, or are you talking like the
Oh
paint
yeah,
stick?
like a I was
okay.
a 2 gulp champ, like just boom down the hatch.
We had, we did. We obviously did beer bongs. Then we had like the flabongo, so it looked like a yard flamingo that turned into a beer bong. Have you ever seen those? Yeah. It's like the bottom is hollow, and then you would just take it out of the flamingo's neck, and yes, I think it's called a flabongo.
Flabongo.
Hang on, I gotta look it up. This is it right here.
I want a picture of this.
That's what they looked like.
So shut the fuck up. You did that? That's great. I'm so proud of you.
It was so random too, but like, yeah. Anyways,
flabongo. All right. Well, now getting to serious things. Now that we grew up, unlike people in Moscow and Canton.
No shit, right? Well, this is a good segue because I want to show this. Rolo Moda is in here from time to time. I don't know if she or if he is today, but somebody sent me this and said, check out the timestamp 1435 of the video, and the cop covers the body cam, and then I'll let the video explain it. But
1435 is 2:30.
No. 1435. This right here.
Oh, I thought you meant like military time.
No. Nope. Right here. So I will put this full screen, and here we go.
I think even a black truck might even have that way too. I mean, y'all can go and watch it yourself. You know, they should know it. Back towards me, body.
Right here.
Yeah, he covers his body cam, and right after he uncovers it, he waves at the guys like to pass, like to go on through.
Watch down here.
The runners right here. Watch the right hand. Look, and as soon as he waves, you see.
Oh my God!
Boom, and you're gonna see the fucking.
So look at that.
That is.
Look at how Tesla covers his body.
Do you know how many hours I have spent in slow-mo on this video, combing and posting things? I knew it was fucked.
Look at this. Look at his hand. He totally does a little. Come on. Yeah. And then look at the 4 guys go.
1.
2.
3. 4. 5.
If that's a coincidence, along with every other damn coincidence in this case in the Banfield, then, like I've said, Moscow is not only a portal to hell, it's apparently the most coincidental place to live also.
Well, what did I find on my TikTok when I went and I saw in the rear, the side view mirror, when they're first going to pull over those kids for apparently drinking, not doing anything wrong? Like, what is that, by the way? Why is there an undercover car there in general? Why are they... Who called anything on those kids? Were they loud? Did they have a big boom box? Like, was it like, they're holding it over their head and it's Peter Gabriel? No. So like why are you talking to them? And I don't understand the offense that it was. But they stopped them, right? And when they first roll up on that side street from the parking lot, in the side view mirror, you could see 2 cars pull up, somebody get in a car. You see things going on in that side view mirror.
You do. And I just had Luna's comment up here about the notebook. That is an interesting take. I'm not roasting Luna, but she says, come on, stop. He's flipping the notebook. But that's not the hand. At least it doesn't look like. Let me put it in slow motion.
Oh, it's not like I believe he's flipping the notebook. It's what's happening behind it.
But right here, watch this. So he covers it. Now, this is at half speed. So there's the notebook flip right here. Okay. Now his right hand, no papers in that. But it is just an odd time up of it. Cover to that, whether or not he was waving them, that's just so weird.
And again, if they're in the area and you're saying you can't get time-eat advance reports when your own undercover, supposedly patrolling people are in the area, that's a bunch of BS. And when they cleared those people, that's another issue in itself. When they said, oh yeah, we cleared them. When somebody, a sleuth on TikTok, when this all first popped off, it's not this image, but it's another one of people running from 1122. They said, oh yeah, we cleared them. How? What? How? How did you clear them?
Well, that's what my kind of like my pre-recorded live is about Thursday night, is like shit that just doesn't make sense. And it's like, how are all of these people that are around the crime scene when this happens relatively easily cleared? And I also, Sammy, want to go back to something you just said about how just weird stuff that happens in this body cam footage. How about when the kids were originally seen by the cop, he tells them to stop, then he doesn't. Saeed inserts himself. Mm-hmm. But then when the other cop comes over, he goes, can you go after those guys? I didn't want to push it. What does that mean? What are you pushing, a bad hammy? What, like did you not stretch before you had to go walk after kids? Like, what is I don't want to push it means?
I don't know. Also, the weird staring off to the side at an angle when the kids are. And I showed you on my TikTok like that weird. If I'll do you want me to send it to you? That clip of what I saw in the bushes.
Yeah, you can send it to me.
Okay.
And I will.
Beyond that, this whole.
Yeah.
I just think of this as like, this is going to come down to how is this forensically possible? How is this in the timeline possible? And now we have. And Truth and Transparency did a great job bringing up this new peer-reviewed article regarding touch DNA and secondary transfer, which I have been making videos about forever. Now we finally have a peer-reviewed article about this specific case, which is amazing.
Did you send me that screen grab? Because I read
I did send you that screen grab. Yeah.
You did? On text or email?
Email. I emailed it.
Okay. The other thing too, I didn't get any email, by the way.
Wait, what?
Nope. birdieBombshell00@gmail.com.
Or let me send it again.
Shoot. I was just going to say something about, and the DoorDash driver video too. Allegedly that video that we watched of the DoorDash driver from Translucent, I have seen screen grabs going around. It was released actually on a channel a handful of months ago from, I think it was Axon. So it's not, I don't think that DoorDash driver video is like brand new. I believe that somebody, chat, help me out, Hive. Isn't it like Axon or something? But I believe that it is not the first time that it's been uploaded to YouTube, people had sent me screenshots of it. Officer Axon, yes. So
Well, the DoorDash driver to me seems like the obvious biggest issue with what happens with confidential informants and her story. If she's saying she saw him parked, that's not possible. That's not even possible in the Dateline documentary. That's not possible in this new coming to Amazon Prime documentary. Like, where is this happening? Show me.
well, exactly. And also, Devil's Advocates last night when he was on, he said his red flag where his spidey senses went up is like how many times she was like, you know, again, whether she was out of her ass or not, and she was high, but she was like, I'm the DoorDash driver. Yeah. I'm the DoorDash driver. Yeah.
It's your get out of jail free card. Like, I'm the mayor's wife. I'm the mayor's kid.
Yes.
I'm Senator so-and-so's kid.
And it's so I just think too, any capable defense attorney could easily discredit that as an eyewitness thing, just like you could easily discredit Dylan's, because clearly she drives under the influence. There's record of it. There's body cam footage of her doing that. That would put doubt in a juror's head.
Well, the timelines, the narratives don't match. This is the problem. The narratives that they have spelled out for us in court documents, and now that they're supplementing those narratives that they won't put in court documents that are ever changing, they're putting in Dateline, they're putting in Amazon Prime. So now we're left with these like 3 stories about the 911 call or the DoorDash driver or when he was there or who was parked. It's noise.
Yes. And I also just want to say, I understand Axon is what makes the body cam footage, but that's why I was asking if anybody remembers the channel that apparently put it on YouTube first, because I don't think the translucent one was the first one, was the point that I was making. As I said,
okay,
I could be wrong.
I sent you, wait, did I send it to me or did I
send I got it now. All right,
okay.
Here we go.
I think this is the DNA stuff.
Yeah, I just got the DNA stuff here.
I printed out a copy, so.
All right, let me add it in here.
And I'll read it.
Yeah. You want to just read it? Okay, I'll zoom in. They can follow along then.
Can I read it?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. The increased sensitivity of forensic DNA technology enhances the ability to detect and analyze even the smallest quantities of DNA, which is essential for solving crimes where only trace amounts of biological material are available. Evidence from multiple studies shows that it is now possible to generate a full DNA profile from handled materials deposited merely through touch. However, this heightened sensitivity also introduces challenges such as an increased risk of contamination and the potential for detecting DNA DNA from individuals unrelated to the crime. So basically they're saying this is great that we can get such a trace amount of DNA from something, but here's the problem. We don't know how it's deposited. Just because we've got better at identifying and detecting something on an object, we don't know if it's first transfer, secondary transfer, primary. Like, we don't know how this is deposited. So just because we can see it and grasp it doesn't mean it actually says anything about anybody, except for they were there at some point or touched this thing at some point, or even worse, they didn't even touch it and they touched someone who touched it.
Well, exactly. And this isn't just a problem with DNA and getting a trace hit of a substance. This is a huge problem in USADA with drug testing athletes that are clean, but they're taking some sort of supplement that they don't know. But it's like the whole trace amount. If you go to such a microscopic level, you will find something that has an ingredient that's a part of something that's banned. It's essentially the same thing for the DNA. This technology has gotten so good, you can get a hit of anything you want, damn near.
Well, the worst part about this one, especially with the genetic genealogy, is they amplified the profile. When they didn't get the name they wanted, when it was coming down to those 4 brothers and we might be getting something, the FBI said, stop work. Stop right now. No more work for you, Othram. We're taking over that sample. And guess what? We came up with the name. The name is Brian Koberger. But guess what else? What we did to get that name, we're not telling you. But it's a match. Just trust us, bro. So then it says, evaluating evidence considering the donor's activities enables the formulation of activity level propositions, which focus on how the DNA sample was deposited rather than merely identifying its source. This offers a comprehensive exploration of DNA transfers pathways using standardized models, specifically domesticated fingerprints and domesticated hands. The investigation of primary and secondary pathways underscores the complexities of DNA movement, recovery, and retention across various surfaces. So basically, what this field is coming to find out, even though they can identify people better, right? Like they can find more degraded samples. They can amplify the profile. They can get a hit off of something easier. They're finding when they're looking into cases, especially with this IgG shit, that they can now detect, is it a secondary transfer, which will show a higher level of something versus a primary transfer, which will show a higher level of something, whether it be skin cells, hair, whatever, biological evidence. There's indicators now. Now they're worried about, let's figure out how we can tell if this is a secondary transfer sample or a primary transfer sample.
Well, good on whoever thought of that. And Sammy, I don't know if you know this, Devil's Advocate, not to just regurgitate everything he said last night, but he brought up such a good point about this out of the book that was it by Howard Bloom that wrote his book?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he had said too that
there's 2. It's Howard Bloom and I think it's James Patterson.
I can't remember which one he said he was reading, but it was the one that dropped around the time the Dateline doc came out.
Okay.
Or I think it was close to that time. So anyways, he started talking about how in that book, I believe he said it was from the book, that there was a gentleman who went back to the scene of a crime and got degraded DNA and broke open that cold case and kind of made a huge power move in his career by breaking open this cold case. I don't remember if he said it was somewhere on the East Coast, but guess who did the DNA in this case?
Are you talking about the Long Island serial killer Rex?
Was that it was Bloom, people are saying. And I can't remember it because it was the first time that I had heard this off the top of my head. He had said that. So if somebody remembers that, but yeah, apparently it was some guy who was able to go back and get degraded DNA and break open a cold case. And apparently that's the same guy who did it for this case with the DNA.
Interesting.
So yeah, it was some cold case from Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Well, okay. So here we go. The results revealed significant differences in DNA recovery between primary and secondary pathways, with primary pathways generally yielding the highest recovery and percent rates. The presence of an intermediary surface, such as a mock hand or female hand, significantly diluted the recovery of male DNA on the final surface. Example, a snap button or a drug baggie.
Oh. Say that again, Sammy.
Okay, I'll say it again. The presence of an intermediary surface, such as a mock hand or a female hand, significantly diluted the recovery of male DNA on the final surface, such as a snap button or a drug baggie. Okay?
Do you
The
think
lower relative recovery of DNA on a snap button and a drug baggie after secondary transfer compared to primary transfer is crucial for accurate event reconstruction and evidence interpretation? So basically, take your ball home. Like, if you're not getting how this was put on this, and it's only giving a percentage that's reflecting secondary transfer, and now they have done a peer-reviewed study of how this is possible, how are we supposed to? This is the linchpin. What else is there?
Yeah, they're cooked. They're cooked. And if they didn't have that, would they have ever gotten Brian Koberger? Literally. I mean, like I'm saying, would they have? Because he was arrested, right? Obviously, we know that. But like, I want to know, do you think how are they so confident in this DNA? That's, I guess, what I'm getting at. How are they so confident that
they're
this
not?
DNA,
That's why they said, let's just call it a law enforcement tip. Like, hi, we're calling in. This is what they wanted. They wanted to refer to it as a regular law enforcement tip. You wouldn't even, why don't you want to regale us of your tales of how you got this degraded sample and amplified it to show the criminal? No, you wanted this. You didn't want to talk about it.
So crazy.
And you still don't want to talk about it. Okay, here we go. By tracing the movement of touch DNA throughout a crime event, valuable insights into the actions of individuals can be gained, provided that there is a clear understanding of DNA transfer and recovery mechanisms, none of which exist here. None of which exist here. We weren't even sure how they found the sheath, where they found the sheath. We're not even sure where the bodies were located at this point, 100%. Okay? We're not sure of the condition. We're not sure of the injuries. Forensically speaking, we as a public are in the fucking dark. Okay?
Yeah.
And how did we get this sheath? How did we get this sample? Who got to who? Transferred it to who? FBI to Othram? What was the process? What are the protocols for the lab? This is all important.
It's just, and then again, they have a sheath. They don't have a murder weapon. So isn't that convenient too? Like a sheath allegedly on a bed, minimal DNA that doesn't hold its weight in a peer-reviewed white paper, doesn't get a hit at the first lab, goes to this other lab, no chain of custody, defense attorney kept in the dark until the trial.
And the second lab gets a hit off of something, and they tell them to stop work and take it over. All right, here we go. The ability to distinguish between primary and secondary transfers is instrumental in evaluating activity level propositions, thereby supporting more informed judicial decisions. Additionally, this 99 study demonstration, the effectiveness of standardized models in replacing real world scenarios, offering a reliable and reproducible method of studying DNA transfer mechanisms. Boom. Basically saying, if we're going to be throwing people in prison, the electric chair, or shooting gallery to death for the rest of their life, we might want to make sure that this is legit.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just not that you didn't do a phenomenal job explaining it. I'm putting this into ChatGPT and I'm saying, put this into layman's terms.
Oh, good.
Because
I love more explanation.
Yeah. So it says, thanks to advances in forensic DNA technology, scientists can now detect even the tiniest amounts of DNA, even from just touching something. It's helpful in solving crimes when there's not much evidence, but it also creates problems. For example, it's now easier to accidentally find DNA from someone who wasn't involved in the crime at all.
Mother.
To make sense of this,
I'm going to refrain.
Yeah,
I'll refrain.
To make sense of this, investigators try to figure out how the DNA got there, not just whose it is. That means looking at whether the DNA came from somebody directly touching the object, which is a primary transfer, or if it came from someone who touched another person or object first, secondary transfer, as Ali Benevento talked about with the Pulse Ox and the homeless guy and getting convicted of murder for the rich IT businessman from the EMT being there. This study used fake fingerprints and hands to study how DNA moves and sticks to different surfaces. It found that primary transfer usually leaves more DNA behind than secondary. It also showed that using fake models, like a fake hand, gave consistent results that could help in real crime investigations. Understanding how DNA moves like this helps detectives better piece together what really happened at a crime scene. It helps tell the difference between someone being present versus someone being wrongly accused. I would add in or set up, just because their DNA ended up somewhere by accident. I'm going to say, now tie this to the bigger picture as a defense attorney.
Before you put this in, can I just say, to any logical person looking at the amount of bloodshed, stab wounds, violence, gore, the insanity of the tightness of the timeline, you with a straight face as a government prosecutor are going to say this person who could barely have a skin cell detected on a button of a knife sheath managed to just Bruce Lee it out of there. He's basically he's the Flash. He's Mr. Incredible.
He's a forensic ninja.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
He's literally a forensic ninja. It's a magic trick, damn near. You know what I mean? It's literally impossible to be real.
Even OJ couldn't do this.
Well, OJ and his okay, I digress. Sammy, see?
I know, Jason. I know. Yeah. I'm aware.
So this is
Nick Cap. The hair doesn't match. I'm aware.
I think OJ covered for his son.
I think that maybe both.
OJ
because
told his son
the only reason why I say maybe both is because that one lady who was going to be a prosecutor witness, but then she sold her story because she was poor to Star Magazine, came face to face with him, and he beeped the horn at her and was flying down. I don't know if it was Gretna Green or if it was Bundy. I want to say Bundy. And she saw him and was like, oh my God, that's OJ Simpson. He was totally frantic, speeding, blowing past a stop sign, and almost clipped her.
Oh, I remember that, actually.
Yeah, and then she sold her story, saying that she saw him frantically. Yeah.
I do remember that. So this is interesting. This is actually kind of cool what ChatGPT just did. I said, tie this to the bigger picture as a defense attorney, and it actually gives a defense strategy for a bigger picture argument. And it looks like it lays out it says, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today's forensic technology can find DNA from just a single touch. That might sound like a good thing, but it's also dangerous. Why? Because we're no longer just identifying who DNA belongs to. We're now forced to ask, how did it get there? When did it get there? And why is it even there in the first place? Let me explain.
That's how, but by the way, this is what we should be asking all along.
Right.
DNA can solve a lot of problems of wrongfully convicted people, in rape scenarios of falsely accused rape where people are sitting in prison, or there's a lot of things that DNA can help unwind, especially the Innocence Project does great work on this, but it also can go the opposite way where we still don't understand. And the fact that we don't know how it got there, that's a big fucking problem.
Do you know what else I see as being a huge problem is that this is new. And usually when people are on trial with a newer technology and then a newer argument against that technology, they still get effed because nobody understands it.
I don't love that this case is is, whether it knows it or not, is setting a precedent for
Oh yeah.
the incoming of discovery through IgG and allowing federal agencies to break their own policy because so this is where I have a problem. State and federal are separate bureaucracies. They don't, sometimes they'll like combine charges if it's like hate crimes or terrorism or things like that, right, within the state. But like, for example, he's being prosecuted by the state. He's being prosecuted by Latah County. He's not being charged federally, right? The feds partnered with local and state police, and they used systems, they used investigators, they used people. But when a defense attorney has to when they have to subpoena, they have to ask for discovery regarding the feds. You remember in these preliminary hearings what a pain in the ass this was to get things. And they said, oh, whoops, we didn't save the logs, or shucks, we don't know. The DNA evidence of the other male DNA that was on the scene, that was found out by like a shock surprise that, ooh, sorry, whoops. But they get to hide behind the TUI statute when it comes to the feds, because you can't, a defense attorney, prosecutor, they have to ask nice, and the feds don't have to give it to you. They don't. Right. They're not required to. So if the feds are now being allowed to break their own policy regarding genealogy databases like 23andMe or whatever, just outright, and a state judge says, that's okay. That's a precedent. So now how many state prosecutors are going to go to the feds for crimes and say, wink, wink, nod, nod, we can't do it, but you can. Exactly. And we can get away with it now.
Yeah, we actually just got away with it at a Supreme Court level with a firing squad. So imagine what you could get away with it at.
See?
So, yeah. And so next time somebody talks about the DNA chat, this is how we are all going to answer it as a hive. Okay. We're going to ask, why was there no DNA of his found anywhere else in the house? No blood, no footprints, no clothing fibers, nothing linking him physically to the brutal scene, except one tiny piece of DNA on a removable object. That is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. In fact, this study reinforces the idea that just having someone's DNA present tells us nothing about their intent, involvement, or guilt unless you understand how and when that DNA got there. If we don't know that, then the entire prosecution's case is built on is a dangerous assumption, and assumptions do not convict people of murder.
In a logical world, yes.
Yeah, well, we clearly live in a world that's gone batshit crazy. So
I mean, we acquitted Casey Anthony. Think about this, like how different the mentality is when it comes to trials since OJ. We had Casey Anthony who was acquitted because the jury couldn't, the state's case, they couldn't say exactly how she died, when she died, and how she got there. So any scenario in their heads was possible. And if the state isn't going to definitively say how this dead child ended up in a marsh in Florida in this location, and you're not telling us, and you're not giving us enough evidence, like I think they should have convicted her, but it was circumstantial evidence at the core of it. And so I understand if a prosecution doesn't make its case definitively, that's what can happen.
And this is a case where they're like, just trust us, bro. We don't need a murder weapon to convict anybody. We don't need a motive. Just trust us. This is our guy.
Right. It's been trust us, bro, from the get.
It's wild. Sammy, have you ever seen this? This is an older video, but people talk about this guy who early on was talking about a bunch of details that had not come out yet.
Yes.
In the Idaho 4. There was a reflection of him. I played around a little bit and I got it lightened up to where you could see his face. I'll zoom in here for everybody in the chat.
He doesn't have the same ears as Brian.
I agree, and nor does the voice, but that's what I was able to get it to. And then I asked AI to recreate it. So that's AI. Now I flipped it, I mirrored it because of the reflection, but this is what the person, as good as I could get it, looks.
So it's somebody who has a structured. Let me look. Go a close up on the face for me. I just want to look at the features quick. Okay.
Kind of looks
All
like
right.
a
This
little
is
bit of a
somebody who
baby
has
face.
hooded eyes. They have a wider nose at the bottom. They have thinner lips. They have a structured jaw. They have ears that aren't pinned back. Blonde hair, thick, floofy, and somebody who definitely works out.
I think kind of a baby face too.
Yeah, looks young.
Yeah. Shaved head on the side, longer on top.
But those ears aren't Brian's.
Yeah, I don't think they're wearing glasses, Phoenix.
And you could tell too, like the eye shape, like when somebody has a forehead, like I have a high arch to my eyebrows. I've always had a very high arch. When you have like a lower arch to your eyebrows and the way your face looks, like I don't have hooded eyelids, but I could tell this person has hooded eyelids.
Tony just said quarterback looking. I actually think that is a very good description.
That's actually a really good description. Yeah.
So I will play a little bit of the clip now. What you see.
It looks like he has like you can't tell like the width of his here, but like here you could tell he has like a bigger
like
nose.
bottom of his nose.
Yeah.
Yep. So here is the audio of it.
I don't want to be any more
Um,
specific than that because I don't want to put anybody in a challenging or. I just want to let you know that I'm a relative of someone inside the investigation into the quadruple homicide in Idaho. I don't want to be any more specific than that because I don't want to put anybody in a challenging or contentious situation regarding their continued employment. And
Pause.
What I'm about to tell you is.
I want to analyze. Because this is important. So I don't want to put anybody in a challenging situation regarding their employment. So that means their employment is worth more than like something like an essential worker, because it must be a career job. So if you look at that fact, so like if you say, I don't want to put their employment in jeopardy, they're not working at the Holiday Inn. So it's somebody with some sort of stature or power, old enough to have a career that's important to them, that they know is valuable, and they must know that they're relative values. Okay, continue.
That's a great catch.
Thanks.
Secondhand, but it is from what I believe to be a very reliable source. Again, this can only be considered a rumor as I don't have firsthand knowledge. I never planned on posting any of this information out of respect for the victims' families. However, now that one of the victims' fathers has released some of the gruesome details himself, I'd like to share some of the investigative theory.
I hate to pause it, but isn't it interesting that he has the same information that the father of the victim released? So it's assuming it's Steve G. So he got that same info.
Well, let's analytically think about this. You weren't willing to say what you know because you're worried about the employment and career of somebody in your family that it might jeopardize. But for some reason, now that you heard something from Steve G, you now feel like this information is free game for some reason. How doesn't that information not jeopardize your family member at this point? So let's hear what he has to say, because then I'm going to have something to say, because that doesn't make sense. If you were worried about your family's employment and that's the original reason why you're not saying something, but now you heard information from Steve G, which is making you think, okay, open the floodgates. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
What's that piece of information? And let's see if this squares.
Good catch again. Yep.
As you know, the two women were found in the same bed, but with similar wounds. That's what's being reported. That's not exactly 100% true, at least in regard to the fact that they hadn't fallen to sleep in the same bed. One of the victim's wounds were deep gouges that were delivered with extremely aggressive force, so much so that the victim's liver and lungs were destroyed. Here's the theory that's happening. They definitely think it was a man because of the force of the wounds. The person must have been very strong. They think the man came into the room after doing what they did on the second floor. They went upstairs. The person cleanly and quietly unalived the first victim. The second victim awoke and tried to run. They believe that the man possibly grabbed her, and she screamed loudly, apparently. The man then harmed her, and the reason the wounds were of such force, he was delivering it quickly and forcibly to quiet her, which I apologize for how I know it's disturbing,
shit.
but
Hang on. There was notes.
I apologize her.
Yeah. Well, I was just
hang on.
going to say
apologize for
pause
how-
because I wasn't looking at the screen because I was busy writing what he was saying, like Cliff Notes. I could tell he was reading something.
I know.
So
I
you
just
didn't even have to
paused it
tell
on
me.
there.
So
But
he said, so here's what he's willing to say now. Because apparently what he's saying now isn't going to jeopardize that family member and their employment because Steve said this. Okay. He's saying there's similar wounds. Not, they didn't fall asleep yet. Deep gouges. They were aggressive. And they were forceful in the liver and the lungs, which that's like the most forensic information we've had in, I don't know, since this started. They said it's a man strong. So then if you think that it's a man and that information you received computes with why you withheld this information, right? If you withheld this information and they're saying it's a man and now you're willing to say it, why? He came to the second floor cleanly and quietly. Cleanly and quietly. He's like Mary Poppins. He's just an umbrella and he's in and out. He's Dick Van Dyke. Chim chimney, chim chim chiroo. Okay. And then this, as you want to know what happens when I have a sleepover and my friend's being violently stabbed in the liver and the lungs, I don't wake up. I'm awoken to it. And then I have a reaction like we're in the age of video games on a computer in 1997 playing Bomberman. I mean, Are you fucking kidding me? Wait, let's have a delayed reaction.
Yeah, it doesn't. And just the other thing that Brian's friend said too is that Brian is too weak. There's no way he could do it. And he talked about how he was serving in 05. So he knows a thing or two about K-bars. He goes, I couldn't do that.
And let's square that up with Dylan's testimony, who didn't hear any screams, just thought she was playing with the dog. Everything's great. So where's the scream on the Ring camera? Okay, scream loud too, he said. He said the second victim screamed loud. So Dylan thought screaming loud sounded like dog play, or this is full of shit. And he was deliberating it as quietly as he could. That's good. Let's keep going.
Well, and I just grabbed this from his notes when he flipped it.
What does it say?
So he was. It says,
so yeah, he wrote this all down.
Yeah, but it is interesting. Like something harmed is probably what that looks like, horned, but it looks like a guy's handwriting, and it looks handwritten.
Yeah, that is not a girl's handwriting, in my opinion.
So I'm going to try to pause again and catch a different section of it.
Which I apologize for how.
Oh, see, if it just wouldn't
See, like,
be blurry.
I don't know if people like my handwriting, girls' handwriting, if they can like, what? Wait, how do you? Like, I have like really cursive-y handwriting.
I write in all caps.
Oh my god! Did you learn how to write in cursive? Are you too young?
The last grade that I was taught cursive was 2nd grade in Mrs. Zeisloff's class.
So you didn't have it where you like had to do it. I had to do it, and I was so good at it.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time that I wrote in lowercase.
I was so good at it. I wrote like a mom. So my friends in high school, I would write them notes to get out of school. But then the secretary who took the notes realized that all this is the same handwriting, and we all got in school suspension because I wrote like 6 of my friends' notes on the same day.
Do you want to hear a conspiracy theory about why they stopped teaching cursive?
Why?
So that allegedly nobody knows how to read older documents like the U.S. Constitution, like the Declaration of Independence, like a lot of older type of scripture writing. And
Yeah.
it is interesting. I struggle to read some cursive.
Well, my daughter had to learn it. She goes to Catholic school, and so she had all of 3rd grade. She had to learn it, so she knows how to read it, but she barely knows how to write it. But she can read it.
Well, that's good. She's doing better than I am with that.
Man, it was rough. It was rough out in these streets in the 90s.
But anyway, how do we know that she screamed? Because 3 individuals reported hearing a scream between.
What?
How do we know that she screamed? Because 3 individuals reported hearing a scream between 3:45 and 4 o'clock. That's why the police have such a specific time frame as to when the murders occurred. Because I don't know if you noticed, but.
And I remember when this video was published. This is before the time change. Before the time change, and I always bring this up.
What do you mean time change?
They changed the time of the murders. Everybody in the chat, do you remember this? Where they changed the time frame to 4 to 4:25, but before it was earlier to 3 to 4.
I remember it being changed back. I thought you meant like the time change, like my head was.
So we have 3 individual screams reported. Oh, we do?
And what about the DoorDash driver now?
Who's playing with Murphy then?
Exactly.
The authorities weren't called the next day until late in the morning, yet they had a very specific time frame when the murder happened. They think the scream is why.
Which is interesting because I thought it was Dylan seeing a masked man around 4 a.m. according to the 911 call.
Well, that's a rewritten bullshit and doesn't match with the whole this narrative that we're getting now in this new Amazon Prime trailer. Yeah. I just have to say, I watched it like 10 times. Why were they outside playing with their mouths? Hunter goes in first. They're all in the house. And he says, Santa's passed out. Call 911. But everybody's confused at the condition of the person on the 911 phone call. And they pass around the phone like it's musical chairs. Like it's hot potato. Here, no. You talk to this fake bullshit. You do that.
Right. Well, look at the question on screen. What misinformation just said. That's a great point. If the 911 call was always there, how did the time change?
Exactly. And by the way, the only person we have a knife sheath with DNA that now is proven to be secondary transfer, most likely in a peer-reviewed article based on how much DNA is actually on that sample. Okay. Now that we have that out of the way and they want to call it a law enforcement tip, let's go over the fact the only person with the knife that we know of that walked into the residence was Hunter Johnson, who said that he got a knife.
That I've always wondered if they're like hiding a little bit of the truth right there in plain sight, because then they could say, technically, he's not lying. We said he grabbed a knife.
And by the way, why are you grabbing a knife if you don't know what's going on? What you're so confused? Dylan and Bethany are so confused. They're living in the land of the lost, all right?
Yep.
They're acting like they're about 10 bong hits deep in confusion. And yet somehow Hunter wasn't confused. Hunter knew to get a knife. Hunter knew to go to that door. And the second he opened that door, what did he see that was different from Dylan or Bethany, who also saw the same thing? Because guess what, people? Dead bodies don't move. So how come this person opened the door, cracked it open, saw the same body on the same floor, and was immediately able to see somebody needs medical attention and was able to yell, according to his girlfriend at the residence, Xana's passed out, call 911. How come that was his immediate reaction? But two able-bodied roommates who supposedly sat there for all these hours both saw the same thing on the floor and decided, you know what? I think I want to get my phone and open up my Snapchat, and it's a good time to call my parents on it.
Exactly. And do not forget that Chrissy originally said that her niece called her and said they were all shot. They were at a party that was shot up too. So let's not forget about that initial, firsthand testimony that her niece called her and said that Kaylee was shot. Do you remember that? And then on the 911 call, when you break it down, you hear they were shot. That sounds like it's scrubbed out. And Bobby Buckets also said, this is an interesting point. I'll go back and listen to this. He goes, how do we know that she screamed? Why does he say we know? Is it just a phrase of speech?
Analyzing a turn of phrase is interesting. I would say under cross-examination, I'll give it more weight, but on a spliced up, diced up documentary that's, meant to paint a certain picture, I'm giving zero of this credit, except for to point out the discrepancies and talk shit about it here.
Mm-hmm.
But until I see those motherfuckers on the stand, which, by the way, the fact that we can't call these victims the roommates and see their faces on camera while they're testifying is a travesty.
How many, I'm going to ask you, Sammy, but chat, 1 for yes, 2 for no. I haven't done a poll yet.
Let me tell you something.
Yep.
If this was, and this goes along with what I was talking about earlier with my stepson's best friend who died from the fraternity, who didn't do shit, didn't get medical attention. If these two roommates were men,
yep,
we wouldn't be here. They would be on the stand or charges would be pressed.
I was going to say, I think there is a significantly higher chance that they would have been placed in handcuffs or detained than not.
1,000%.
Yeah.
But we don't know how deep this all goes and how much they were a part of playing the role that they were told to play. Hence the I saw bushy eyebrows on the third interview.
So that's what I was just going to ask is, do you think like Dylan or Bethany, answer for both of them, answer for one of them? It's not the point. The general point is like, do you think that these roommates would ever do time? Do you think there's a chance in this case that the most earth-shattering, groundbreaking thing, as Steve G said, don't believe some of the speculations you're going to hear about the roommates. This is the truth. Does anybody think that there is a chance? Because I'm torn. I'm like, would that? I don't know. I think we would already know at this point, but
are the Alberts and the McCabe's doing time for murdering John O'Keefe? No.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So no.
Yeah. Well, let's get through this video quick. I'm gonna let this play. Sammy, let me know if you want me to pause.
Mm-hmm.
After reviewing video files from the neighborhood, they reviewed security cameras in the area, and they have an audio file where I haven't heard it, but I was told that you can clearly hear a loud scream from a female. That scream was recorded at exactly 3:38 a.m.
Okay, wait, pause.
3:38.
Let's go to the Linda Lane footage.
Okay.
Because I was told there was an audio file. By the way, who's telling you this? That's a very specific detail. That's a very specific piece of evidence you were told. And for somebody who is so worried about a family member's career, you're sure saying a whole fuck lot, aren't you?
Yeah. So he said 3:38, right?
Yep.
All right.
Let's go. I can't hear anything.
Could you hear the other video?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just quiet. Chat, can you guys hear anything?
Let me go on my own phone while I'm doing this, and I'll do that. Because I'm now invested. I mean, I'm always invested, but
That's as loud as it goes.
I can't hear anything. Like, this doesn't even... No, nobody can hear it.
Yeah, damn. Huh. But if I play this...
What?
You can hear this?
No.
Oh, wait, hang on. Can you hear this?
I was told that there are parties there.
Why can't you hear the other one?
I don't know. How are you playing it?
I don't know. Is it quiet? I can hear
I don't
it.
hear anything. This sounds like zero. I don't even hear white noise.
Why does that happen?
No, it's okay. You just tell me what you hear, and I'll trust you.
Yeah, I will. Here, we'll go off trust me, bro. I'm going to listen for 3:30.
I will trust you, bro.
Okay, it's 13 seconds away.
Sound is off on video. Nothing.
I can, hang on.
What do you hear?
Well, I hear you coming through the, hang on. This is, well, it wouldn't be a stream without audio issues.
Oh, wait, actually keep it going because I heard a car drive by.
Bruh.
Bruh, keep it up. Keep it up.
Hang
Keep
on.
it up. Go it to like at least 2:39 and like 50 seconds just so I can hear.
Okay. Do you hear any of that?
Yep.
Oh, so it was working.
All right, let me listen carefully. None of you be smart and cute and funny because I can't handle that right this second. Hold on a second. I hear a car.
We're past 338.
Yeah, no scream. So they're lying. That guy's lying. That guy's full of it.
And this allegedly came out prior to the Linda Lane footage.
Wait, do you want to do... Wait, because we know the timeline's all fucked up, can you take it back to 2:28 a.m. and see what happened then?
Yeah, I got to get a different video.
Because I know they fuck with this timeline. So I just want to see if you push it back an hour, what happened? 2:28. Yeah. Let's go back. Okay. Perfect.
Right there. Did you hear that? I'm going back. It's right before two. Yeah, it's right before 2:28. Sammy, both of us turn our mics on mute.
Oh, okay. I'll turn my mic on mute. Oop, oop, oop. Hold on.
Did you guys hear that? It's loud. It's a guy's voice. You're on mute, Sammy.
God damn it. One more time. One more time.
Okay. So just it's right at 2:27. You hear like a guy's voice. Okay.
Wait, go through it all the way till the end of 2:28.
Okay, I will.
I don't hear anything screaming.
So, anyway.
So this guy, I think, is full of shit.
Well, that was a good try. We tried. We just
I want to prove or disprove what he's saying is my point, is that people can talk and say things, but luckily we have evidence, and it's great to reference back and see, hey, I don't like to solidly call people liars unless I actually have physical evidence. So if there was a loud scream, as he articulated so nicely in this wackadoodle video of his, then I would like to be able to corroborate his story. Otherwise, if I can't, you're a liar. And what are you doing putting this narrative out there?
Well, I think it was before any of the footage got released. So who knows what somebody told him? For all we know, this is playing kind of the opposite, just devil's advocate. Maybe he is telling the truth and they manipulated the shit that did come out.
And by the way, if you give an injury to a severe injury to the lungs or the liver, the amount of DNA, I can't even fathom that. And you just walk out, nothing there.
Yeah. And I think too, also that Linda Lane footage, it's quiet even for me, and it's full volume, and I have noise canceling headphones, and my shit is turned up all the way here. So I think it's quiet. I want to finish this. There's 2 minutes left of it. Let's hear what else this dude says.
Again, I don't know if that's true, but it's what I was told. The weapon used was a long serrated edged hunting knife with a fixed blade. The weapon had not been in the house. The person brought it with them and took it when they left. The two victims were on the same bed.
Okay, I just said we weren't going to do it. We did 228, not 238, because he said 338. We did 228.
Oh, that's all right. We'll just do it another time.
Well, I still got it up, but
okay.
Good catch, Hive. Yeah, good catch, Hive.
Thanks, Hive.
Yes. Okay.
You're the best.
Please, God, let this audio come through.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell into your ear. I apologize.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's not your fault.
It's because I had it on mute. I apologize.
No, you're good. Can anybody hear white noise? I can hear it.
I hear it.
Okay. God damn it. I'm giving up on it. We're going back to this.
Side by side. One victim was found on top of the other. The reason is that the
wait, go back a second. What did he say? One on top of the other?
Were on the same bed, not side by side. One victim was found on top of the other. The reason is that the one tried to escape and was grabbed, harmed, and then shoved and fell on top of her friend. That is why there is there's a lot of blood mixtures on this at the scene.
So proving our point that you have a literal, think about the close proximity. If you look at that weapon, the close proximity you would have to be to do something like that. He's not military trained. He's not any trained anything. We don't have him on history going to shooting ranges regularly or taking any sort of jujitsu or UFC style fighting. How?
Yeah, I don't know. And also, there was no blood in his car either, folks. So
looking for this white car. The reason being is that it was seen speeding by an A&W gas station. I don't even know what that is, but anyway, that's, again, it could be wrong. I was just told it was seen speeding by an A&W gas station.
Wait, was this before that? Was this before that stupid photo was released? Where then they like supplemented it with like photo bucket images of a white Elantra, essentially, or like Google images.
Stock images, yeah.
Right. So when was this originally released?
This was posted by After Dark Coffee and Crime on January 4th of 23. So
yeah, but this came out before that, because I remember seeing this before that.
So I don't know.
Do you guys in the chat, the Hive, know when this originally came out? Because if he's talking about the A&W gas station before that dumb photo was released, where then they supplemented it with the stupid, Olin Mills images of fucking white Elantras, I'd like to know.
Right. I do believe it was before he was arrested.
It was on Fortune. Yeah, that's where I saw it too.
Yeah.
At 3:45. Now, if the screen was recorded at 3:38 and the car sped by at 3:45, it's a very tight time frame, but it is possible that the person left immediately and rushed and was seen speeding by. Also, the scream may have been what caused the person to quickly leave. That scream could have been what saved the other two roommates' lives. The person knew that they might be detected, so they sped away. Again, this is all just rumor. Take it for what it is. I just pray for these young people. I hope they rest in peace and that their families can find peace after this horrible crime. And I hope that the person who committed it can be brought to justice.
Okay. Well, if the screams save lives, then why did Enon Harsh, the neighbor, who doesn't really pay attention to them, but seems to know a lot about them, as we covered in our other podcast,
Right.
how come he didn't hear a scream?
I think there's, and it's an amphitheater. Remember, it's an amphitheater. Everybody can hear everything when it goes on outside there. So it is surprising that, yeah, because he doesn't remember when he went to bed. He doesn't remember when he got home. He doesn't remember anything. He's just turning
neither
on
do the roommates.
Yeah. Guys, this is so obvious on its face. It's so obvious.
And they're literally getting people right before trial and pressurizing them, junkies and drunks, to say they were parked next to something that they don't have on camera themselves.
It's like part of me thinks that the reason why this case became such a mess and so confused is not only because of the narrative, but because people can't think with their brain. They just feel emotion with their heart when it comes to this. And then how much shit slipped through the cracks that's been scrubbed, that's not archived, that people forgot about, that we don't know, that now they can just leak whatever they want. I mean, and it's going to somehow tie together. Guys, on its face, if you read this case on paper, you have a roommate who invited one of the girls that was killed back to the property the night that it happened. And everyone says, what a random coincidence. You have a recent breakup. You have a bunch of frat hazing going on during that time. You have people on the Banfield. You hear screams on Linda Lane way before when they say the people get home.
And on the Banfield.
You have the most, you have Kaylee and Maddie and Jack walking about, they told Adam everything. They're going to get you girls. You have 8-hour delay 911 call. You don't know where Ethan and Xana are. You don't know where Dylan and Bethany are. You have no idea about anything. And so the only people who do know most likely what happened are the two surviving roommates, the ex-boyfriend, the friends of the ex-boyfriend, and the two surviving roommates, potentially neighbors that are near and around the crime scene. Yet somehow some guy that lived in Pullman that just transferred there and didn't know anybody and is weird as hell.
Yeah.
They found touch trace DNA on a knife sheath, pinged his phone, knew how much the battery percentage was turned off. Yet the ex-boyfriend, they knew when apparently he rolled over and scratched his ass in his sleep. According to Steve G, that's how close they can monitor his cell phone. I do not get it.
Well, it's interesting too that we're just going on the say-so of when Xana and Ethan were at the house based on the reliability of Dylan and Bethany, who have now changed their story multiple times of when everybody was home, including from the PCA.
Yep. 4 kids running past the body cam footage.
That we just are given the, oh yeah, they're cleared. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I honestly, I hope this court, while it's looking into this leaking investigation into Dateline, and we're now coming up on another docuseries, yay. What I learned from the Karen Reed thing, and I made a video about this, a TikTok, you just shut your fucking mouth. Don't do interviews because they splice and dice it, and then it can be used against you in some way. Brian's smart to stay quiet, but you know who's not smart to stay quiet is the people who are talking on this new documentary, because this narrative does not square up with the 911 phone call. And I guarantee you that can be used as evidence.
If not in this case, maybe the next trial.
Well,
you know what I mean?
we cannot have people being shot to death with complete circumstance. It still blows my mind the lack of evidence in this case. Physical, direct evidence on a quadruple homicide. I Googled my face off to try to find a similar case. And what was the evidence? You can't even come close. You can't. A stabbing multiple people, and this is the evidence we're given, physical direct evidence, it's mind-blowing.
You know, what if he did do it? Right? Let's just say, what if he did? Let's actually go to that side. Brian Koberger committed these murders, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying that he did. Okay, outside of a confession, right? Do you think somebody who knew, let's say he was just a jailhouse snitch that admitted to this, right? So let's say he was the one that admitted to it. Maybe he was in jail already, but he goes, nope, that was me before I got arrested for something else. I'm doing this. I'll cooperate. I was the one, kind of like a serial killer lies about additional bodies, right?
So that happens sometimes where serial killers will admit to crimes they didn't commit because the police pressure it to solve that because they don't want to further dig into something else. Like the whole Canada pig farm thing. Remember that? Like, yeah, which it had to do with politicians and stuff like that at that pig farm.
Right. So let's say that he does that. He's going that route. Let's just try to mentally get to that position. And what if you're somebody who knows, or you were building a case against somebody else? I think you could almost prove that Brian might be just being a jailhouse snitch at that point. Because you can say, well, what is there really on him? There's trace DNA. And as we know, we don't know how it could have gotten there back then. Maybe he was a previous suspect that wasn't ever convicted of that crime. It's like, what if it was framed in that light? Would you feel confident you got the right guy? I don't know.
If he admitted to something that looks as impossible as this evidence as we have now in front of us, then you would have to assume this person's already in prison and they're just copying to something for a larger purpose of an association, a fear, a gang, you know what I mean? An association.
And let's not forget, he hasn't confessed. There hasn't even been a slip up, Sammy.
Well, yeah.
That's what I mean. So you have no confession, no slip ups, no motive, no murder weapon, multiple 22,000 Elantras in the area. You got a clean car after a bloodbath, a delayed 911 call, and a gag order with closed court filings that are sealed to high heavens. The defense has denied full discovery for months in the beginning of it. There's no other suspects or co-conspirators. The house is torn down before the trial. There's tons of activity near the scene. It's a Jason Bourne timeline with minimal evidence, which makes him a forensic ninja. There's tons of leaks by the media in a Supreme Court death penalty case. What are we missing here?
I typed out prosecution, Latah County, Brian Koberger, trial unfair practices and hiding discovery. In Latah County, Brian Koberger trial, the defense team has raised concerns about the prosecution's handling of evidence, alleging practices that could potentially be considered unfair. Specifically, the defense claims the prosecution failed to provide detailed expert disclosures, leaving them unclear about what the prosecution's dozens of expert witnesses will testify about, which hinders the defense's ability to independently review and investigate the evidence, which I think might be changing because of that motion about the third-party review. Remember, that was the court approved of it. They're going to pick a neutral third party to review certain pieces of evidence. The provided discovery, which includes tens of thousands of documents, photos, and videos, is not in a readily searchable format, making it difficult for the defense to effectively review and utilize the information. Even the simplest things, like why the FBI took over the tip line, was because they were to date stamp it, organize it, and make it into a reviewable, searchable format. But then they gave them shit about even getting that tip line. And when the John Judge made them give it over, it was ad hoc, no labels, no timestamps, nothing. So what was the point of the FBI taking control of that tip line? The prosecution has cherry-picked specific clicks or purchases from Amazon click history suggesting a lack of transparency and potentially misleading presentation of the evidence. The expert they picked out for Amazon, why would you need this expert to talk about if he bought it? Why are we needing to go into the weeds with what they're trying to say regarding clicks if he actually did this?
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's there.
The prosecution's actions amount to creating a chaotic snow globe, that's what Ann Taylor said, of evidence, making it nearly impossible for the defense to adequately prepare for trial given the volume and disorganization of the materials. Duh.
Yeah, and I think like Mama Tata just hit the nail on the head. It's like, okay, fine. No one knows how much evidence they claim to have. It goes back to the
No, they
trust
have.
us, bro.
They use this as their defense, or their response to the defense is always saying, we've given them terabytes of evidence. And people can't picture a terabyte. Picture a football field and then multiply that thousands of times. That's how much evidence they've given them. Who the fuck can go through all of that? And they gave that evidence like a plop on their lap with no specifications. And then when they said, we need this specific piece of surveillance, or we need this specific piece of audio, video, whatever, they say, good luck.
Yes, and don't forget the two digital forensic guys won an award from Moscow. The two guys that were charged with, or that were tasked with dissecting all of that data.
Well, that's no surprise. Judge Bev in the Karen Reed trial just got an award this summer.
Yeah, a terabyte is like 6 million pages
Yes.
of a PDF file.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
If you saw it, like I'm a visual person, so like I watched a video where they showed like what a terabyte of evidence is and compared it to like physical things. It's mind blowing how much evidence a terabyte is.
it is mind blowing. It is mind blowing. And I think it comes down to this case is a cluster. And if Brian's
we'll be on
innocent,
it. We'll be on top of it. We'll be catching every little thing. Don't you worry.
yes, we will. And to wrap this up, Sammy, before I give you the floor for your closing thoughts, just a reminder, Big Forehead, Big Dreams is
I love that
best
name.
It's the best username ever. Mama Tata and that Southern Blonde Lawyer on Sunday evening, 7 p.m. Central on the 22nd. So this upcoming Sunday, the first ever Hive Mind Roundtable.
What's her actual name?
I don't know if she'd want me to say it, but
Well, I want to know it.
it's
Why would she want to be on
because
a
I think they're just
roundtable?
going to show the usernames.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I won't do that just because I don't know. But to also some other announcements. Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I will be streaming because I'm going out of town, and then I have a pre-recorded live premiere, so that'll air the normal time on Thursday night. So tomorrow, 8 in the morning, if you guys want to tune in, and then on Thursday, 7 p.m. normal time, I have a pre-recorded live on things that don't make sense. A lot of what Sammy and I just touched on, oddly enough, will be in there, but I have visuals and I have other explanations. And Sammy, I don't know if you enjoy these, but this is one of my favorite slides.
This is my favorite part.
Okay. So I kind of used an image that makes it look like it's not due to flat Earth, because I feel like people can't wrap their heads around maybe that we're the only civilization out of all the ancient ones that believed we're on a spinning marble going however many miles an hour, yet all the stars travel with us and are in the same spots since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
So essentially the ice wall being the outer barrier of the world that we know it, and beyond it, possibly other lands, civilizations, or entire other worlds. We live, essentially, it's that we live on a contained plane with a massive impenetrable ice wall, also known as Antarctica, surrounding the entire thing. We're talking 300 plus feet high, extending for thousands of miles, and allegedly guarded by military forces under the Antarctic Treaty System. I want to pause there and say, think about how many millions of men have died over just miles of land. Yet there's an entire effing continent that all of the countries with all this military power just said, let's all just agree to no one will own this land, right? Even though it's barren and it's uninhabitable, allegedly.
Well,
Maybe.
only after explorations by Admiral Byrd, who did Operation High Jump.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And I think a lot of people think that it's just a bunch of woo-woo, but you have Admiral Byrd that did discover land that's quote unquote bigger than the US beyond the South Pole. He talked about it on live TV.
And the changing of the climate.
Yep. And then Captain Cook tried to circumnavigate Antarctica in the 1700s. He logged over 60,000 miles without finding a continent. That's a lot more coastline than the official map would ever show.
You also have all the old maps up until a certain point that show Antarctica surrounding all the continents.
Well, and do you guys ever wonder how a compass works and how it always goes towards the North Pole, as we say? Well, I've heard that companies and giant media organizations and Hollywood and all the powers that be, they like to throw shit in your face. And if you know, they have to tell you, right? So the company BlackRock that pretty much owns the world, allegedly there's a BlackRock that's at the center of this earth, which has a giant magnetic pole. Hence the reason all of your magnets in your compasses always will point north, because that rock, that black rock, has all of the magnetism that will always pull the needle to go true north. And that would only be possible if there was a stationary spot on a flat planed realm.
That's so interesting. I was listening to this YouTuber who said something about they're terrified of if they can't contain what they've been hiding under the ice, like in Antarctica, basically, and something along similar lines, like that magnetism, that thing.
Yeah, and
also that they have like weapons where they can like unleash
earthquakes.
Yeah. And the people have disclosed that, like people who worked on those bases have given interviews.
What is the name of those things that they go way down in the ice? And there was somebody on the Sean Ryan podcast that broke it. And actually, I think they had like yeah. I don't remember exactly the names of it, but I've always said the term extraterrestrial does not mean from a different planet. Extra means more. Terrestrial means land. There's more land outside of this ice wall. You look at all of the logos of Target, of Walmart, of I'm trying to think of the other two, but they always form a circle. And it's kind of trippy to think that these people would put it in your face like we are enclosed. I have also seen from firsthand just trying to get investors for my startup company. Not that I'm talking to like the most rich and powerful and the most elite, but even on a smaller level of getting into a quote unquote network, the truth of the matter is it's not what you know, it's who you know. We've all heard that, but it's also once you get in, it's like they have to almost, it's not the money. It's like, can they trust you? Right. At a certain point with your business, not just to run your business good, but like, if you get in, are you going to, keep your mouth shut about
Are you going to play ball?
Right. Are you going to play ball? And hence, I think the humiliation rituals, hence the, hazing, the leaks, you guys, like, I think there's a lot of rumors too, that you have to show that you're willing to play ball. You have to sacrifice. You have to make a blood sacrifice. A lot of people, right before they get famous, one of their parents dies, their brother dies, their daughters die.
Why do you think it is that, like, when people are campaigning for an election, they say one thing, and then when they get in that position, they completely pull away from their stance on something. They're not firm on it. Their principles completely go out the window. And then they give you that boilerplate excuse of, oh, well, we had to for the party, or had to pass that bill, couldn't bring this up, can't. They just completely cave. And there's a reason for that. But
I think the reason is, and I think part of it is why throughout history, the system and the powers that be, the deep state, whatever you want to say, the globalists, they've hated a true populist. And I'm not just talking about Donald Trump, if you want to call him a populist, right? I'm not saying that, but I'm saying
Not right now.
you have to be a populist while you're campaigning to get the people to vote for you. Then you go and you become a populist for the people who actually pull the strings. Like, it's a strategy. It's chess. Get the people to think you're not one of the same types of people that actually always runs and gets in and then lies to their face on why they can't do the policies like what you just said. But it's not just with politicians, guys. You'll see it in corporate America. Yeah, you see it all the time.
It's everybody. And I believe too, like this, like, so your theory with the ice wall and like they're more land, I think beyond being more land, I mean, I live in an old city, and for example, like I'm watching a bridge, okay, or like a road being fixed for like a year. And I'm thinking to myself, this is taking forever. There's trucks, there's cranes, there's cement, there's all this material, there's all these people, all the modern wonders of the world present on this street, fixing this one thing for so long. And yet somehow we built, if you go downtown, some of the most megalithic cathedrals with the biggest stones, most gorgeous architecture, geometrically, sacredly perfection. And you're telling me we built this at a time where we didn't even have a car?
Horse and buggies, Sammy's. Horse and buggies on.
And I just don't buy it. Even like they had the World's Fair here in Buffalo. And I went to the library, of course. And you can't just like, you have to go ask for these books. Like, you have to go ask. And they have to bring it to you about this shit. And it's kind of, when I was reading the newspapers and all these old articles of it, I was like, the city didn't want them to destroy these structures. Like, they were lobbying against the politicians because they were like, why would we destroy the music hall? Why would we just, these buildings were not semi-permanent, not possible. They were permanent. And they fucking wrecked them for no reason. And they were gorgeous. And they built this fair in a year. And we can't even get a fucking pothole fixed. And it just blows my fucking mind every time when I watch especially the World's Fair in Buffalo, which I've researched so much on because Tesla lit it up in Niagara Falls, the whole thing. It's unbelievable. The timeline of when this whole thing was built. These weren't semi-permanent structures. Okay. They say that now. No, I went to the actual library and looked at the archives. There was lobbying to keep these structures. And the citizens were so pissed that they hired security to keep them out of the fairgrounds when it was over because they wanted to keep the buildings.
It's ridiculous. And I sometimes get, it's kind of depressing to think about. But if you think about how many people's lives, right, like their time on this earth was completely shattered and wrecked by a bunch of douchebag, power-hungry, God knows what their motivation was, just evil assholes that destroyed the economies, destroyed the cities, wrecked their family life, and to think that stuff just stops. I mean, I've said, I think the world wars were just to destroy the old world.
Yeah, agree.
Destroy all the beautiful buildings, the mud flood. There's so many things that we don't get taught about. And now we're distracted by Kim Kardashian's ass so that we don't go and look at it instead.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I made a video about that. I tagged you and I said, I actually scrolled by, which told me there's something happening. Like, I don't know if it's frequency, but like the sex magic, the glamour magic, it's not having that same effect anymore. Those images, this false face, I feel like people are looking at something and they're not like, yeah, I want that. Let me buy that product. Let me watch this whole video. People are scrolling onwards. They're hungering for something more. And I think that scares the shit out of people. I like the controllers, I guess you could say. I really think that we're at a place where they know we're hungering for more, because the numbers are saying what we're drawn to and what we're no longer indulging, what we're paying attention to and what we're no longer indulging. And so they keep having to throw things at us to keep us occupied, because we are still, like, even when you walk by old structures, there's something in your heart, there's something in your soul, art, old structures, buildings, just there's something about it that like resonates, where you're looking at it and you're not just admiring it or marveling at it or wondering how this is possible. You almost feel like, what am I missing? Because I know I'm missing something here that's a part of like this history, our history, this connectivity that we're missing and we're being lied to. And I think that's going to resonate. And as we kind of like dig into anything in life, I feel as if we're falling away from that glamour magic, that sex magic, these things that were keeping us occupied for a long time that took us away from that. And we're kind of like, I don't give a fuck right now or anymore. It doesn't work. Like Kim Kardashian recently posted a video. She's wearing like, next to nothing. She's got on, all diamonds, crosses, jewelry, skimpy bikini, and the music in the background is crazy from Aerosmith, like with the Liv Tyler and Alicia Silverstone music video. So she's trying to bring a nostalgic element to her video, because of course when we used to watch music videos when it was popular, we would watch that because we liked it. So she's trying to bring us in a multitude of ways: sex, materialism, now nostalgia. It's not working anymore.
No, it's not working. And I don't know about you guys. I've always said, like, I feel like since my junior year in high school, I was like drawn naturally to the contrarian thought process. Like I've said, 9/11
That's
being
young
an inside
and
job.
good.
Yeah. But especially as in my young adult life during COVID, I don't know about you. I've been fucking bored, excuse my French, since COVID. I'm just bored. The world is boring. If you're not out drinking or if you're not out gambling, look around your city and tell me what there is to do. There is nothing. There's no wholesome events. Like you have to go to a small town where they have like the little fairs still. Like maybe once in a great while, there's a state fair in your city. But like even that, it's like it's around drinking or it's around just things that, don't get me wrong, I like to drink. I like to have a good time. I own a liquor company, for God's sakes, but it's boring. When is there going to be new shit to do as a society that doesn't revolve around degeneracy?
Well, I think it's this, to be honest with you. Like, I think it's this. I think there's a reason why certain, like in the free Karen Reed movement, I've met some of the most brave and have seen some of the most courageous individuals just stand up against the system. And when you see an injustice and how it brings people together, like just like the Hive, I think that is saying something.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And like, to tie this back into the Idaho case, that William dude, when I was talking to him, one of the things that I really leaned on was, I was like, dude, go watch the live replays. I always put the comments up on screen right over here so that when you're watching it, you can see them, even if you don't know how to turn on the live replay comments. And I said, go and watch it, because you're not going to see a bunch of people that don't use their brains. And like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, I know that I say shit that not everybody in here agrees with. Right.
That's fine. But it makes you think. Like, look at Chrissy said, community is what's missing. What's so funny about that comment is when your feed comes up and you get somebody's post, it's like nostalgia 90s, and they show you like a kitchen with wallpaper and plants on the top of the cabinets, or a portable phone, or some ugly floral couch, like everything that everybody had or everybody watched or played with, like a toy or a show or something in the 90s. We didn't have the internet when we were in, I mean, I didn't, obviously, until I was in high school, like later years. And the point is how is it possible that we were so disconnected from each other, but yet we all look at that from every state in America? We see that post, and so many people in the comments are relating to it, understand it. How did we have more of a universal community when we were less connected? And now we're more connected, and it feels as if we don't have that community experience. And I find that fascinating.
If you live in a neighborhood with a sense of community, consider yourselves extremely lucky, because
For
like
sure.
Mrs. Birdie and I, we live in a community that we might be a little young for it, but there are people our age. We are very social. We go out, we do stuff, but it's like, it's so hard, again, unless it's something like drinking, or
When
if
you
it's
have
not
kids,
that,
when you guys have kids, it'll change.
but
It'll
then
change.
but then, Sammy, then everything starts to cost a shit ton of money.
Oh,
And then you know what I mean?
me.
Well, you know what I'm saying, though. It's like, if it's not degeneracy, it's gonna rob you dry. Like, dude, I work with a dude who's got 4 kids, and 3 of them started youth sports. And for youth baseball, the cost of their jerseys and these arm sleeves and these cleats and these bats and these gloves. I'm like, dude, my brother and I, we shared a baseball bat until it was time that, like, the league, literally by the age grouping, we had to get a different one. And it's not to say that like, we weren't poor, we weren't rich by any means, but it was just, it's like, the consumer mindset too has gotten out of control. Things aren't built to last anymore. And I know I'm using a baseball bat as an example, but like,
No,
you know,
I hear you.
Everything's cheap, and then you end up having to buy 5 of it. You spend more money than if you just would have bought the nice one originally, but you didn't have enough money to buy the nice one originally, because we're just getting attacked at all angles on random auto bills, or, you get charged. I had a bouncer at a bar scan my ID and flip the effing iPad around for a tip, Sammy. A bouncer.
I know.
He took my ID, put it in this thing, shined under black light, flipped it around for a % tip. I go, I didn't even hand you a debit card. Yep.
And I know the parents in the Hive are going to be like, just you wait. Just you wait. You have an idea of how expensive it is. It is so expensive.
Yes. And
thank you. Wait.
Thank you, Moto Man, for the super chat. And
I'm not even that parent that indulges in like things like design. I don't keep up with the Joneses. Nothing. It's still expensive. Like, even like you said, the hobbies. My daughter skis. She dances. Catholic school. All expensive. It's all too much. It's crazy.
This is an opinion that I have. Again, trust me, I had no chance of going to the NFL. But I'm saying, like, from somebody that played football at college, and we were really good. My head coach is now the head coach of Kansas, and my O coordinator is now the O coordinator at Penn State. So, like, we did things like a very large program would do. But what I'm trying to say is, your kid is not going to be the next Aaron Rodgers if he becomes sport-specific travel team only for one sport. All of these pros that we grew up idolizing, the majority of them, they snowboarded, or they skateboarded, or they played hockey, and then they wrestled, and then they did whatever. Like, it's important. And you can do all that free in a community, but whatever. Then you get into
I know what you're saying,
thing.
because and it's up to them. Like, if you do the competition or you do the travel, then that's when it gets costly. You have to like let them decide, because that's also the commitment too. And my daughter likes a little bit of everything. Like, she loves drama, loves being in the plays, loves dance, acro, but she loves skiing. But she wants to do if she had to take one of those away to just solely devote her time to one thing, which is going to cost me a shit ton of money anyway, she doesn't even want to do that. Like, it depends on the kid, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, Sammy, I, as always, enjoyed our time together. And
I love
thank
talking
you.
to you.
Yes, it's been great. And thank you for being flexible and moving up to tonight instead of waiting till Thursday. I will see you next Thursday at 7 p.m.
Just
Central.
depends. I might move to the Antarctic ice wall. I'll let you know.
Well, please write us and use Starlink, and you could join the Hive. Maybe you could do a live stream from there. That'd be pretty cool. Go tell us what's underneath the ice.
Yeah.
If the reptilian overlords don't get you first. So, anyways, everybody, thank you, Sammy. Thank you to the Hive. Shout out to my mods. I had a ton of fun tonight. As always, great discussion. And tomorrow, 8 a.m., I will be right back on here chatting with the Hive. So if you can tune in, I would love to see you. If not, that live will be reposted right after I get done.
Bye, guys.
See you guys. Cheers.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.